Today, we're going to talk about how to create a plugin for Qt Creator, which is probably the IDE you use for your Qt development. Before starting, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Davide Coppola. I got an MSc in computer science back in Naples, Italy. That's my hometown. Grew up there. I've been using Qt since version 4.3. I was a uni at the time, so it's been a while. Used to be a game developer. I spent many years working and living in London. And then I decided to change my life a bit, moved to Barcelona, and I joined Viking Software at the end of 2017. And that's where I'm working now. It's been 2 years and a couple of months now, so it's been a while. And during the weekend, I'm a skydiver, so it's not just development. I also have a life outside the screen that helps me keeping sanity, mental sanity. But yeah, if you never tried, I would recommend it. It's amazing. Go for a tandem, do it. It's not easy, of course, but I really recommend it. Okay, so enough about myself. Let's see what we're going to see in this presentation. First, there's going to be a bit of a theory, a bit of an overview. So some things you need to know before starting. Then there's going to be more practical information, things you need to do when you want to create a plugin. After that, we're going to create a plugin together. It's called QTC Timer. You will see that later. And in the middle of the presentation, there will be a surprise. So don't leave. Wait for it at least. After that, I will show you a plugin I've been working on for a while. It's called SIGBUILD. We'll also try to demonstrate normal usage, and I'll talk a bit about it, history and everything. And the last part of this presentation will be about discussing good things, bad things about the creation of plugins for Qt Creator. And finally, we will have questions and answers, hopefully. And something we're not going to have, it's advanced topics. This is only 1 hour. I cannot explain everything. But I can guarantee you that at the end of this session, the end of this talk, you'll be able to walk out from that door and create a plugin for Qt Creator, unless you spend a whole hour playing with your phone. I don't take responsibility for that. And be prepared, because this is a technical presentation, so there will be code. It will be C++. I assume that most of you are developers and C++ developers, so I hope it's fine with everyone. Okay, let's start. First part, theory. Quick overview about the plugins. Something you need to know from a technical point of view, like if you're a developer and you want to create a plugin. You should probably know that Qt Creator, it's a very tiny app that basically it's like 80 kilobytes, something like that. And that it's just a plugin loader. The Qt Creator app, it's a plugin loader. And everything you see on your screen when you start Qt Creator is a plugin. And all these plugins can depend on and interact with each other. They can share data, they can get information from one another. So it's everything is very dependent on plugins in Qt Creator. And because of that, possibilities are endless, more or less. There are limitations, but we discussed those later. So you need to consider, though, that you can do pretty much everything. So if you have an idea, it's likely you can do it. And now from a practical point of view, if you're more like a manager or if you're more interested in the business side, there are things you need to consider when starting a project. And first, that creating a plugin is not hard. I believe any Qt C++ developer could do it and be successful at it. Maintaining and distributing a plugin can be very challenging, and maybe this is something you need to consider before starting a project. Much depends on what you want to do. if it's something for fun, if it's something for making a living out of it. So you have to make choices, take choices. And license-wise, Qt Creator is released under the GPL version 3, but it's more relaxed with plugins. There are exceptions. So basically, you don't have to release the source code of your plugins if you don't want to. You can, and I would recommend it, but it's up to you. So, plugin structure. Plugin is a very simple item, at least the core structure. And in this diagram, the plugin is only the iPlugin or your implementation of the iPlugin interface. Everything else is optional. So basically, for creating a plugin, you will need to implement the iPlugin interface, and that's it. You could have just that. You don't need anything else if it's a very simple one. But of course, you probably need more. And because of that, optionally, you can extend things. Usually, you want to handle settings, so you want to store and you want to keep the preference of the user, like normal options management. And for doing that, you need to handle the data, which is the settings class, and you need an options page, which is an implementation of iOptions page, the interface. And of course, you can have one or more pages for doing that. Basically, if you in Qt Creator go to Tools and Options, you will see all the options pages for every aspect of Qt Creator. And each option page should have a widget, which is what you see on screen in the options dialog, actually. So the life cycle of a plugin. When you start Qt Creator, what happens? As I said, everything is a plugin in Qt Creator. So we have a loader, which is taking care of everything, and is creating a loading queue, and is creating dependencies, like checking dependencies and ordering the plugins in the best possible way so that they can fulfill the dependencies during initialization. And the first thing, we have all the plugins are constructed according to the queue order. So following the queue order, everything is constructed. After that, we have the initialize function called on every plugin, still following the queue order. And basically everything that requires to interact with the dependency, so with another plugin, can be done here. You can already do it here. You should avoid to do anything in the constructor. Keep it lean, keep it small, and rely more on the other functions that we're going to see now, like initialize and the others. After all the initialize functions have been called, the queue is reverse. Is traversed in the reverse order, and the extensions initialize function is called for every plugin. So you have like a second pass of initialization that you could use for getting something like signals connected or very specific things. And then just before the UI is going to be shown on screen, just before you as a user can see Qt Creator, the core plugin is going to send a core about to open signal, so you know that something is going to happen. And then the Qt Creator UI is shown on screen. So the user now is seeing Qt Creator on their screen. So the initialization doesn't finish there; it keeps going, because now that we have Qt Creator on screen, we get another signal from core, which is core open. So we could delay some operation to when the application is completely started and visible. That's up to you if you want to use it or not, but it's there. It's a possibility. And then we have this function, delayed initialize, which is called in reverse order again. And this is for all the non-critical initialization, that especially for all the non-critical initialization that takes some time. Because here you can do things that take a while, and these functions are delayed between each other. there are milliseconds of pause between one each other. So that's done so that Qt Creator doesn't slow too much at loading. The user already has something, they can already see something, and then after that, you can start to do some heavier work. Finally, we get an initialization signal from the plugin manager, and now everything is up and running. You have Qt Creator completely initialized, and everything should be done by now. Same time, when we close Qt Creator, when we terminate the application, there's a shutdown procedure, and we get another signal sent from core. So we know that something is happening. We know that the application is closing. And then there's the about to shut down function called for every plugin according to the queue order. And for this function, you have two options. You can do your things, you can do your cleanup, and then you can return synchronous shutdown to say, okay, I'm done, I'm good. Or you can do your things, and if you need more time, if you can't do something very quickly, you can return a synchronous shutdown. That's you returning, of course, but Qt Creator will wait for you until you send the asynchronous shutdown finish signal. So I'm not sure if there's a timeout for that or not, but anyway, when you're done, you should send the signal, and then the application will terminate for real. Then all the destructors are called in reverse queue order, and you're back to well, whatever you were doing, because Qt Creator is closed. Okay, now for the practice part, let's start to see more things you need to do when you want to create a plugin. First, setup. Things you need to download and install. Qt Creator, of course, and I always recommend to use the latest version. You need to download and install Qt, and this is obvious, but what's less obvious is that you need Qt script, which is currently deprecated, but needed. It's needed because you will need to build Qt Creator, and for building Qt Creator, you will need Qt script. Otherwise, you will get errors, and it's not going to work. So you will need that. So make sure you install that. Once you have your environment set up, you need to get the Qt Creator code, and you can do that cloning the Git repository. And you probably you don't want to work in master. When you're developing a plugin, you want to work in a specific branch. And personally, I use the tags. The Qt developers, Qt Creator developers, are nice enough to create tags every time there's a release. So myself, I create a branch based on a tag, so you know that your plugin is going to be based on this version. That's annoying. Sorry. Yeah, that's the plugin we're going to see anyway. It's working. Okay, so you know you're going to work in the right branch with the right codes, and that's very important. You'll see later why. And something you have to be sure before starting is that your compiler is compatible with the one used for building Qt Creator. For Linux, for example, GCC 5.3, and you could use newer version of GCC that seems to work, but it's recommended to use exactly the same version used for Qt Creator. So definitely don't try Silang or anything else. And when you're building Qt Creator, it takes a while. On my computer, it takes half an hour. On this machine, probably an hour. And I recommend to have a debug and a release build. You will need those, and especially during development. So let's see how to actually create a plugin. It's very easy. We have a wizard for that. You just need to go to the file menu, create a new project, and you're going to get into the library group, the Qt Creator plugin wizard. Easy like that. Inside the wizard, there's going to be a first allocation page, then where you're going to select a directory where you want to place your plugin, a name, something like that, and then you're going to select the kit, so the version of Qt and the compiler you're going to use for building a project. So fairly normal stuff when developing Qt. And probably the only important part is the plugin information. Here in this page, you enter some data which are going to be part of your plugin. Like for example, the name of the developer, the vendor name, copyright, license, description. This is all the information you will find in the about section in Qt Creator. And two important things are allocation, where you will find the source code of Qt Creator, allocation where you will find the build of Qt Creator. Now, I just say they're important, but at the same time they're not, because there's no check here, so you can put whatever you want, and you're gonna change those anyway. And the same is true for everything else. Whatever you're gonna write here is not gonna be written in stone. You can change it later. So you use it. I mean, you write things here, so you have a start, but don't worry. It's not like if you write something wrong here, you're done. You can change it later. Something you probably need to know about this page, which is not obvious, is the deploy into selection. And you basically have two options: Qt Creator Build and local user settings. The first one, Qt Creator Build, allows you to build and install your plugin, the plugin you're developing, only for the build of Qt Creator you just created. Local user settings is installing the plugin you're building on your system. Personally, I use the second option because I'm currently and always using my plugins, so I want them on my system. The only problem with this, and maybe it could be a problem for you, is that if you do something wrong, and if your plugin is crashing the application, you cannot start Qt Creator anymore. So the only way to fix that is just to delete manually the file from your system. And so you have to find the file, you have to delete it. That's obviously it's a bit annoying, but it doesn't happen often. And also it's a good reminder for you to write good code. So just try to write code that doesn't crash. So let's go and see this simple plugin, Qt Creator Timer. Okay, what does it do? This is an example plugin, so I try to come up with something very simple, very easy for this presentation. And basically what it does, it shows you a message every X minutes telling you something. For example, you've been using Qt Creator for half an hour, take a break, go for a walk, do something. And very simple. It's basically a timer and a system message. You know, very, very simple. But at the same time, it's a starting point. You can do more things, and we will see. Also, it has a full working options page. You have the here all the different groups for the options, and in this case, the only option is the time when you're going to show minutes, when you're going to generate the warning, the message. But once again, this is simple stuff, simple code, but you will need this to start, so should be okay. Now, I say this is very simple, but as I said before, when we create plugins, we can always do more. So even if I stop myself at something very simple, I ask myself, okay, could we do something more with this, even if this is simple? And I started to think about more features. For example, well, one thing for sure is going to be better time handling. So considering activity when the user is minimizing Qt Creator or is running another app or is pausing the system, freezing the system, at the moment this is not handled. And we can show different messages at different times. So for example, after half an hour, you could get a message. After 1 hour, you could get another message. Or like, you really need to move now, go. Or for example, after 6 p.m., okay, time to go home, something like that. So that could be a feature. You could allow the user to cancel or accept a message to interact with the system, with the plugin. You could track usage. You could track. You could use this timer and this plugin for tracking how long people are working. I personally like statistics and data, so if I could track everything in my life, I would do it. And so yeah, this is something I think I would like. Tracking things and maybe generating graphs out of it. That would be cool. You can play sounds with the messages, so to be more effective. I don't know. And you can think of more things. Like the thing is, like you can do pretty much everything you can imagine, and everything you can do with Qt, you can do it inside Qt Creator. Of course, you can have more options, like you can customize the messages, you can customize sounds, and you can have all the options for handling all these different features and all the things you're going to create. So even if you start with something very simple, doesn't mean you have to end things there. I mean, that's just a starting point. You can always expand things, and that's always true in software, usually. So, okay, let's start to talk about implementation. First, the plugin class. This is the one which is implementing the iPlugin interface. And of course, you need to include the right header file. And you need to include the QObject and QPlugin metadata macros. Those are automatically generated. And one good thing of the wizard is that even if you don't touch any code, after you finish the wizard, you can build, and you have a very, very simple working plugin. So unless there's some problem with the code, you're good to go from the first second. And this macro here is just telling Qt where to find the metadata of the plugin. But you don't need to take care of that, so don't worry. Then we just have normal constructor, instructor, and we have 3 functions here that are useful. They initialize, that you need to override. The extensions initialize, that you need to override. And then there's the about to shut down. You don't need to override this, but I did because I do some things with it. So as you can see, this is a simple plugin, but this is a very simple class. Like 2 functions, maybe 3, and you're done. So let's see what these functions do. Okay. First, let's start with the initialize functions. We create the settings objects, which is the object which is storing the options set by the users. And we create a page that's going to handle these settings. These are 2 different objects. And basically, the options page is the one you see in the options menu. So you connect this page to your plugin, so you get notified when something changes, and you're good to go. Here, you're done. And then basically, the logic of the plugin is inside these lines. So as I said, it's very simple. You just create a timer, you initialize it here, and when there's a timeout, you call this function, which is just going to show a message. Now you start here, the timer. Potentially, you should start this timer when the UI is shown, but for sake of simplicity, I start the timer here. After all, it's going to be a difference of milliseconds. Nobody's going to notice. And the shutdown, when we have the shutdown, we stop the timer, we disconnect all the signals, and we say we're done with the synchronous shutdown value. So very easy. Now the settings. This is the class which is handling the data, the options of the user. And constructor, maybe instructor, copy constructor, golden standard functions you want to add. You will need 2 functions to get and set values for each value you need to store. And you will need a load and a save function to synchronize your data from disk to Qt Creator, and vice versa. And then you will need 2 operators. You will see later where we're going to use them, but you will need to implement these 2. So that was the other file. Let's see the implementation. Now, The getter and the setter, they're very easy in this case. They just like setting getting an int, but where things are more interesting are in the load function. And what we're doing here, we're getting using this static function, we're getting the object which is handling the user settings, and we're gonna say that we are storing settings. We're getting settings from, we're working with settings from our group. This is just a const char, a pointer to a const char, and this is just a name that you can define. It's an ID for identifying your group of settings. Then here you read the value from the settings, and for the value there's another ID. This is another string, and there's a default value in case the value is not stored yet. Like the first time you run a plugin, you need a default value. This function is returning a Q variant, and you convert it to an int, and you store the value in your member, and you're done. You close the group, you're good. Save is doing pretty much the same, but the other way around. In this case, you're still getting the settings and opening the group, but you're setting a value inside the settings, still you're setting the ID, and this is the value. So even simpler. So the options page. The options page is an object, is a Q object, of course. You use the macro, and you implement the iOption page interface, default constructor, and then you need to implement these three functions: widget, apply, and finish. And then I personally use a signal for notifying the plugin that something has changed. I think this is pretty standard, like most plugins do that. So let's see what happens inside. Now, something important here happens in the constructor. You first set an identifier for your page, and then you set an identifier here in set category for your group of options. So when you're creating more pages, you have to repeat set category using the same ID. In this case, QTC timer, and all these pages are gonna be put together in the same page, basically in the options. Display name is gonna be the name in the tab in the options widget, and display category, this is just going to be the label you have, and the set category icon is going to be the icon. So pretty much you need to do the first 3 lines. You need to set the first 3 lines for all the pages, and these last 2 are only needed the first time you create a page. So the widget function, very simple. You just need to create a widget when it's needed, and this is going to populate what you see in the options page. If the widget that is null, you create it and you return it. Simple like that. The apply function, this is called when the user accepts the settings, pushing apply or OK. And basically what you do, you get the settings, you get the options, the values from the widget. This is a way of doing it, of course. You can do it differently, but this is pretty standard as well. You get the settings, so you generate a new settings object. Here you compare with the settings you have, and if they're different, you're going to overwrite your current settings, and then you save, and then you emit the signal. So this is all the handling you need to do here in this controller, basically. And finally, the finish. This is called when you close the options page. You just need to delete the widget and set it to null, so you can recreate it later. And now the surprise, we finished talking the plugin, but before that, I want to ask a question. Just out of curiosity, this is not part of the presentation. How many of you would like to use the plugin I just described in their normal development? You can raise your hand. Nobody? Okay. Okay, well, no, because I've been using now. I mean, it's kind of nice seeing the message now and then to remind me maybe to have a break, but yeah. Okay. So yeah, second. Or can we do the questions at the end? Okay, cool. Thanks. For the surprise, we at Viking Software are giving away a drone that you can program in C++. And to win that, you just need to give to those guys over there. I can point you. Yeah. That. Okay, sorry. Okay, you can give your business card, or you can fill a little form with your name and your email probably, and we will draw a ball person or founder with pick up a winner tomorrow at 4 in room CO1 at the end of this talk. If you're not in the room, if you're not here in Berlin for any reason, we will send it to you. So don't worry. You can enter now, even if you're leaving tonight. That's not a problem. So, I mean, I would like to play with that, but unfortunately I cannot enter. But if you want to play with that as well, yeah, I would recommend it. Okay, there was a little break. And now I will show you a plugin we've been working on for a while. And this plugin is called SIGBUILD. And basically, the concept is pretty simple. It's a plugin that notifies you when a build is over. I decided to create this because in my day job, I rebuild sometimes, or I build pretty often, and builds, because I work on a big project, take anything from 5 to maybe 60 minutes. And my experience before was like, okay, I start a build, and then I switch to YouTube or Reddit, and I start to mind my own business basically for a while. And then at some point, if I remember, I check what happens with Qt Creator. Sometimes I'm lucky because I just get at the right time when the build is done. Other times, still building, okay, I'll see later. So it was annoying in my case. So I decided to just create something simple for getting notified when the build is over, and also to have a quick overview of what's going on at any time, so I can keep doing my things in the meanwhile. So I created SIGBUILD, and as you can see, SIGBUILD stays here in the sys tray. There's a small icon there that you can open with a menu there. When a build is done, you get sys tray notification, and you also get a sound. And also you get a different sound and a different icon here according to what's going on. There is a log for all the builds. So this keep tracks of all the builds in your session. So the moment you start Qt Creator till the moment you shut it down, you have this log. At the moment, there's no a permanent log yet, but that's going to be probably a new feature. And there's a full options page where you can change a lot of things, but I will show you later. So just a quick overview of the features. Currently, there's sys tray notifications. Sys tray controls, there's a small menu where you can change the main options without going inside the options page. Audio notifications with sounds. There's a small window describing what happened in detail in the last build. There's a session log, the one I showed you before, and full creator options page. So more features are going to come, like permanent logs, as I was saying. So when you close Qt Creator, you don't lose your data. Better build tracking, because at the moment, everything is considered a build. Even if you're running QMake or you're cleaning, it's all a build. So fairly simple, but that can be improved. Tracking and visualization of statistics. As I said, I like these kind of things, and I would like to do something. Potentially, build time prediction. This is going to be hard, but I would like to do this so I can plan what video I can watch on YouTube before starting. And more options for sure, as usual. When you create new features, there's going to be more options. Different notifications. This is something that a friend asked me, but not sure if I could do it. There will be more, but we'll see. And you can also get the plugin at the moment, because it's still under development. You will have to build the plugin yourself, but this is going to be a good exercise, because basically you should be able to do this after following this talk. So hopefully try and let me know. And now I would like to show you quickly the plugin. Okay, so yeah, this is Qt Creator, and sorry if I use the dark interface, but I grew up with Matrix and like dark things. Okay, so let's try to rebuild. You get a sound, you get a notification, and as you maybe didn't notice, when the build is fine, you have a green icon here. Instead, during a build, the icon is yellow, so you know that the build is still going on. And even if I switch, I always have the systray icon there, and I know what happened. If for any reason there's something wrong in my code, that shouldn't happen, but if it's there, you get a different message, different sound, and even if you were not paying attention at the moment you look down, you will see the red icon, and you know something is not right. So you can fix it, and yeah, you get a green again. As I said, yeah, there's a menu here, session builds. Yeah, I tested a few builds before, so you have an overview of everything you've been building, when you did that, what happened, how did it go, and yeah, the last build is just information about your last build, put in a nicer way, and then the options page, options for enabling and disabling the systray icon, same for audio, and then options for choosing when to show notifications. For example, if Qt Creator is active, is on screen, you don't want to see a systray notification because you're probably already looking at it, or the minimum time of the build, because sometimes I do quick changes and I don't want to get a sound every time I build for 1 second. So this kind of things. So yeah, you can customize things a bit. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we can go back to the presentation. Okay, so now we can move to talk about the experience in general when working with Qt Creator plugins. First, I'm gonna say what I think it's bad, what's the problem, what could be improved, and then we'll talk about the good things. First, documentation is almost not existing. I'm sure we all love the documentation of Qt. It's pretty amazing. And the documentation of Qt Creator, the code of Qt Creator, at least for plugins, was decent a couple of years ago or a year ago. But at some point, it just went away. I don't know what happened. But right now, there's pretty much nothing. So if you want to create a plugin, you're on your own, pretty much. And you have to dig into the code. Creating plugins depends on Qt code. So every time something changes in Qt, you might have problems with your plugin. And the same is for Qt Creator. And these might be at the same time easy and less easy. Because, for example, recently, like a few months ago, yeah, Qt Creator developers decided to change the name of a function, of a member of a class, just to make it like more consistent with other functions. That was nice, but that broke my plugin. Now, fixing that for a developer, an active developer, is very easy. You just replace the name of a function in your plugin and you're good. But the problem is more for long-term support. Let's say you have a plugin and you've been working on it for a couple of years. So you started, for example, supporting a version of Qt Creator. Then 2, 3, 4 versions come out, and you still want to support the old version, but the code in Qt Creator has changed. So you have two options. You drop the support and you say to your user, sorry, you have to update Qt Creator, or you have to handle a branch, a development branch just for that version of Qt Creator. And if you're like a sole developer, probably you don't want to do that. I mean, it's too much hassle. So it's not easy. You have to choose that. Not everything in Qt Creator is accessible. As I say, there's a lot of possibilities. You can do a lot of things, but at the same time, some things are private or some things are a bit complicated. So you cannot get every single signal, for example, sent inside Qt Creator. And this could be a problem sometimes. It's been for me, and finding workarounds, it's not always easy. The main problem is the distribution. When you have a plugin, like in my case, it's fairly easy to work on it. It's enjoyable. I like it, but having other people using my plugin is not easy. And why is that? First, compatibility. You have to fight with Qt Creator versions and the compiler version. You have to support different versions of Qt Creator, different versions of Qt, all together, and that's not easy. Could be time consuming, also because like you have to build Qt Creator every time a new version comes. I mean, there are things to do and there are things to track and to follow, so it's not super easy. There are 3 platforms to support: Linux, Windows, and Mac. I would say 2.5 because I don't really consider Mac a platform used by many developers for Qt Creator, according to my data at least. I might be wrong, but personally I would focus more on Linux and Windows. I don't want to offend anyone, just data. And lack of a marketplace. Marketplace, I don't necessarily mean a place where you enter your credit card and you buy stuff, but even a page inside Qt Creator where you can browse plugins and download the one you want. That would be awesome, but we have nothing. What we have is a page on the wiki of Qt where you can list your plugin, but I think probably the developers and few friends know about it, so it's pretty much useless. So yeah, it's not easy, it's challenging, and that's something to keep into consideration when you want to create a plugin. Of course, not everything is bad. There are good things, otherwise I wouldn't be here and you wouldn't be here either. Or maybe you won't be, I don't know, we'll see. Starting, as I showed you today, it's pretty easy. There's a wizard, 3 steps, 4 steps, you're done. You have something working. So the entry barrier is very low. I mean, you can start coding in minutes. That's amazing. Well, without considering the build of Qt Creator. Let's say half an hour and minutes. And you have the power of Qt behind you. So everything is pretty easy. Like there's a lot of code written for you, a lot of functions. So you have a lot of possibilities. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's good. C++ code, I assume most people doing this are C++ developers, but the thing is, like, you don't have to learn another language for writing a plugin. If you're a C++ developer, you code straight away. And there's, as I said, documentation is lacking, but there's plenty of examples. And by examples, I don't mean tutorials online, but the source code of Qt Creator. You go inside and you see how things work. That's what I did, and everyone can do. So plenty of things you can check. Qt Creator is not just a toy project. It's not just something very niche. It's one of the most popular IDEs for C++ development, at least. Last year, I ran a poll and I tried to collect data. And according to my numbers, this is a very rough estimate. So I don't know it for sure. I cannot give you any guarantee, but there should be something like 500,000 people using Qt Creator in the world. I might be off a little, but it's not Visual Studio for sure, but it's not even 100 developers in a mountain. You know, like there's real people using it. So it might make sense. You're doing something. And once again, lack of documentation, but the support from the developers of Qt Creator is amazing. If you write in the mailing list, after maybe hours, if not minutes, you get an answer. You get people telling you what you could do. They help you, and that's amazing. It's like a smaller community inside the Qt ecosystem, but it's very nice. And eventually, you can merge your plugin to Qt Creator. If you want to do that or not, that's entirely up to you. Your discretion. It depends on your project, of course, but it's a possibility. You don't have to, but if you want, you could have your code inside Qt Creator and maintain inside Qt Creator, so and used by thousands of people. So it's up to you and the scope of your project. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So now question and answers, but I also want to leave you some references. You can find the code I showed you today on GitHub in this repository I use for my project. And next week, probably Tuesday, you will find an article explaining everything I explained today on my blog. You will find this presentation on the Git repository of Viking Software. And well, SIGBUILD, you got the link before, but in case you miss it, you have it there. So you have all the things. And these are my social media handles. So in case you want to contact me or you want to check some of my stuff, you can find me. And yeah, that's it. And any questions? Okay, I'm going to repeat the questions because people are not going to have a microphone in the room, so I will repeat. Basically, your name is, sorry? Your name? Nicholas. Nicholas is asking what happens when your plugin is crashing or there's a problem. Yes, Qt Creator is crashing. And as I said, when you're installing your plugin in the system, the only way to fix that is to delete the actual files. And you cannot fix it inside Qt Creator because it's crashing. So there's no way. You can change at early development inside the project file. You can change to install the plugin inside only the current build of Qt Creator. But if you install it in the system, yeah, it's going to crash if you have a crash. So you have to delete the files, and you will not get the plugin until you build again. Question: where is the stored list of loaded plugins? Can show you. You go here, help, about plugins, and here you have all the plugins. You can enable or disable them, and you can. Okay. You mean you might. Okay. So you want to know like where the plugins are for all the system. They're not part of the this menu here. You have to dig into the code. So unfortunately, no. There's no like there's no documentation either. At least I'm not aware of it. You just have to go into the code and. But once you open the Qt Creator source code, there's a lot of folders, a lot of directories. You will find everything, I'm sure. Just a bit of searching. Yes. Sure. Okay. Okay, yeah. In release mode though. So if you want to debug, you cannot do that. Yeah. Okay, well, at least you have debug for your plugin. Oh, yeah. Okay, now that's good because at least you can try something quick, and then if you have a problem, you can build yourself. Yes. Yeah. Oh, makes sense. Good. That's very good. Thanks. Yes. Um, yeah, I mean you have a version, but it's more it's more for your plugin. Something like, let me check here. No, not really. I mean, the thing is like, yes. Okay, yes, yeah, you can do that. That's true. So you can specify a version of a plugin you need in your dependency list. And if that version is not met, your plugin is not going to be executed. So yeah, it's not straightforward, but yeah, you can do it technically. Okay, anything else? Yes. Yes, to build Qt Creator. Uh, you you don't really need to do anything. It's just a requirement for building Qt Creator. I'm not sure if it's going to change in the near future, but at least so far it's been like that. But it's not like you have to touch that code. You just need it on your system for building Qt Creator. So it's not really a big deal. You just need to install it, and it shouldn't be a big dependency anyway. Yes. Yes, that's an option. There's also a memory pool, and they can share data, but that was one of the advanced topics I'm not touching today. But yes, an easy option is signal and slots. And for example, something I am working on in my plugin is in intercepting the signals that are sent when you, for example, click one of these entries, so I can differentiate when you're building or when you're running QMake. Uh, these signals are emitted like inside a completely different part of the application, but I'm connecting them to my plugin so I can respond. And for example, I know, okay, this was a build, this was a clean, this was a rebuild. So yes, that's probably the easier option. Anything else? Yes, I would like to know. Say, I have this absurd need to have a small part of code highlighted and then printed in Morse code on some basic printer. That's something I like. How do I get access to parts of the code? I mean, the code that the user is typing. When I'm programming, I want to highlight this and print it in Morse. Okay, well, there are parts of the Qt Creator that interact with the editing. I never done it, but you can, for example, you can, yeah, you definitely can write a new highlighter or something like that. That's a possibility. Yes, but I'm not done it myself. But as I say, there's if you see something on screen, it's likely you can access it. Yes. Oh yes. Like for example, uh, you're talking like if you click here, you see the implementation. Uh, Potentially yes. Uh, it's entirely up to you. I mean, as I said, you can get pretty much everything that's happening on screen. So yes, it's a possibility. The only thing, like, keep in mind that if you push F2, you go to the implementation. So I don't know. I mean, if that's the only function, maybe you won't think about it because you kind of still can do it pushing a function, pushing a button, but it's yeah, it's possible. Okay. Anything else? Yeah, we're good then. Thanks everyone for coming.